Hey everybody, welcome back to a long-awaited, long overdue episode in Project C.A.R. A lot of you have been asking what is going on, am I still working on it, why are we not having any episodes? Unfortunately, I've been busy with a few other things, family being one of them. The other one is I've recently launched a brand new magazine for the BMW E9 called CS Coupe, which I'll link below and I'll tell you more about at the end of this video. Obviously that's not why you're here. You are interested in Brunhilde, the car, and its restoration. So we're going to catch up on what's been going on over the last, I think it's been about a year and a half now since the last episode, let alone the last update on the website. So we're going to have a look at what we've been doing, why it's taken me this long. I'll tell you what's going to happen in the next few weeks, what I've got planned, what I'll be recording, and then we'll hopefully be back up to speed and we'll get some more episodes in the near future. So let's get started. So while the car is up in the air, we're going to start having a quick look at the bottom, or the underside of it, sorry. As you can see, first off, there's lots and lots of these weird silver black dots all over it. I'll explain it in a minute why it was there, but basically I had a 3D scan made of the entire front half of the car to give me a computer model that I can then work with to design new parts, to figure out how certain things are going to work before starting to then drill holes into the completely restored shell, which would be a proper shame if it didn't fit. First off, let's have a quick look. So we've got the engine is now in. That was done pretty soon after the car got here because that gives us an idea of where we've got space to work with. The new 5-speed gearbox, manual gearbox, has been fitted as well to then line up everything else. So the prop shell will have to be shortened or adjusted, and the bell housing was not entirely sure if that would work, but that fits nicely. The exhaust runs nicely. So we've used the standard bracket that came with it. It's from a E12, I believe. It's a 528i, I think it was. Not 100% sure. The gearbox does still need overhauling, so that's going to go with the car to competition classics with Chris once the car is ready to go back, which is hopefully in February. That's what we're aiming for. The Christmas deadline is not going to work, but February should hopefully be good to go. Okay then, so the engine bay looks a lot fuller than it did when the car first got here. So as you can see here, also completely filled with the silver dots that was used for the scanning. But the engine is in. The airbox is currently removed because we needed better access to the carburetors to install the fuel lines, or to modify the fuel lines because it didn't fit correctly in the engine bay. I'll explain that slightly in a bit. The airbox filter is in, so obviously that needs a bit of repairing because there's a massive hole here that will be welded shut again with a pipe to fit, which will then run to the standard air intake as per the CSI CSL versions. However, ours will also be modified in that it can take warm air from the back of the radiator in winter times, because obviously we'll be driving in the winter as well. So that's a modification that is still coming. Again, that's why we did the 3D scan, so that we can design the part for it on the computer using CAD software, and then we can connect it all and have the part sit here. So that's that bit. Obviously, because mine was a CSA, we didn't have the bracket, so that had to be made. Let's move over to the other side, where we have the AC compressor. So one of the things I wanted to do was to have it not take power away from the engine, so we've gone for an aftermarket electrically operated compressor. This is from Classic Retrofit, which is actually designed for the Porsche, but it works for us as well. And the ECU module will sit on the side between there. So this is where originally the battery was located. Obviously it's now in the boot, so we have fitted this here. Underneath it is behind this massive oil line and some thick wires, we've got the new oil filter, and that is also where the sensors will be for pressure and temperatures. That then runs to the front through a little hole underneath there into the thermostat, which sits down there, and then from there it'll run down here where the new oil cooler will sit in front of the original radiator. So that way the oil is cooled, and hopefully that will keep the engine a bit cooler and running smoothly. Over here you can see lots of thick wires. These are proper cables, 50mm square, to handle the additional power that's coming from the new alternator, which is currently not fitted. But basically I have purchased a 175 amp alternator to hopefully cope with the new AC system, as well as provide us extra power for the other bits and bobs we're running, like the trip masters and everything else for the rallies. So that's why we've got those massive cables. We've got a big fuse sitting right there on the bulkhead. It's slightly low, it's not attached at the moment, it sits a little bit higher, and then that's my grounding point, which will then run to the back of the car. Again, you can I don't know if you can see, actually I'm pointing at things but you can barely see them, but back here is where the cables run through the bulkhead, and then obviously they run along the original routing actually to the various systems. Now you can also see these little rivet nuts, I think they're called, that I've drilled. So basically what we're doing is to make sure that the car is completely solid, in that there are no additional holes in it. Then another feature we are using are these rivet nuts, and they are closed, and what they do is, instead of drilling holes and then have a nut and bolt as per your original design, I don't like that, because it leaves a hole in the body where water can form and rust can start to appear. So what we're doing is we're using these rivet nuts, and what they are basically a little rivet nut that goes through, and as you can see here at the back, they obviously stick out. They are closed off. I mean, there's quite a few of them here. These ones are better because they're still silver. They come through, and then we use it in a tool and they crimp them on, and they can't move. I'll show you in a separate episode how it works exactly, but basically I'm using them throughout the car to seal everything off and still have an ability to bolt things to the shell. Another major feature of the car is the new air conditioning system, and as you could have read in the website update, the blog, we had to modify the original space slightly, in that it had to be widened, which we did, and then we reshaped the brackets on the side. So once they were reshaped, we had it all scanned so that we can then design a new system that fits in, that houses the modern AC unit, for improved cooling, for primarily the Navigator, but hopefully I'll get a bit of benefit during driving as well, so it will make it all slightly more comfortable. In the background over there you can see the new choke cable for the carburetors that runs through the drain pipe, or the side of the drain pipe really, it needs a grommet still, and then comes around here, all the way around, and then basically operates all carburetors at the same time. So if I move that one, it should move all of them. It's a bit stiff because it's pretty cold today. So that's pretty much all the work in the engine bay. We'll get going to the interior now. So the first thing you'll see is that the dash is temporarily fitted. It is there, it's also been scanned, but it's there to see how things fit. Underneath it you can see the brand new powder coated steering column. The rest is still awaiting to be serviced, but that is already in, and you can see the big cables that run pretty much all the way from the back through here, and then they'll go into the rear bulkhead. They'll run along here underneath the seats. Along the tunnel you can also see a lot of the rivet nuts have been placed for various reasons. One of them is the fuel line, which runs on the driver's side, the left hand side in my case, then goes to the bulkhead over there. That runs along the side. On the opposite side we will have these two running on the floor, and then the wiring loom goes along the tunnel here and then comes forward and up. On the top we have the new fire extinguisher system. So that comes out from the boot where the bottle is located, runs along, and then it runs all the way along the top, around the gear lever, and then up here. So one will be in the cabin, the other one going through the bulkhead into the engine. The problem I have at the moment is that the heater isn't ready yet, and I don't know where I have the space to do various things. So I'm waiting on that to be finished, and then we can finalize the last bits on the wiring and the fire extinguisher lines. Over here is a hole for the fuse box. The fuse box is currently being on top of the roof with a lot of wiring mess. I'm going to redo it. I'm not happy with it. I'm going to redesign it, but basically the fuse box itself is over here, and that sits in the hole I've just shown you, and all the spaghetti needs sorting out again. This is a spaghetti, oh my god. This is what needs to go in the, can I even say it on camera these days? I don't know, golly gosh. These are the wiring that needs to go on the back of the instrument panel to connect it all for the lights and sensors. I'm not happy with how this looks. I mean, this is, yeah, not my style. So I'm going to redo it completely. I'm going to use different connectors and then redo the wiring. So that's all left to do. Anyway, back into the car. We have the roll cage, which is now in, but it was a bit of a problem because actually a lot of the holes were not drilled, so it was all loose. It didn't fit. It was bumping against the car frame here, on the opposite side as well, at the tops. So we used a ratchet strap that went around the top, pulled it all together, and while adjusting the diagonal in the back, we managed to line everything up, give a nice clearance here so that once the car is ready for the interior to be refitted, that still fits in there. And then we drilled the holes because these were missing, same on the other side, and a few of the others that were secured, these ones in the back, they were missing. So that's all done, the cage is in. The only problem I have now is that whatever the paint is that they used is not very good. I think it's a primer of sorts. I think it was a bit of a rush job at the end, and so the whole cage will have to be restripped, repainted. I'm gonna have it powder coated this time, do a proper job. But anyway, this one, the one that goes across just in front of the passenger seats, the rear seats, needs to come up a bit to give more clearance over the tunnel where now the fire extinguisher pipes are running. Obviously this will all be covered by a cover plate that will be shaped to go around the top, and then on top of that will be a newly designed interior center console and dashboard and everything else. Now the idea behind that is that it's going to look pretty much identical to the original aside from my main dash here. However, using again 3D technology, we have made a scan of the interior so that we can redesign the interior to match closely to the original but be integrated with the roll cage. One of the problems I have is that because of this horizontal bar, nothing can be opened anymore. So I don't have access to my bonnet release, I don't have access to my glove box, so all of that will be changed so it still works, which is why I have to redo it. Same with the center console, that will be redesigned to fit the new gear lever and everything else that runs through it. The problem with all of this is that it takes about 4 or 5 attempts before I'm happy with where things are. And a lot of the times it's, oh, you know, I can route it this way, and then I've put something in to then discover that something else doesn't fit. So it has to come out again. I'll show you in a bit. One of the primary examples was the fuel filter. I must have done 4 different brackets in different places to finally end up, after about 3 or 4 hours of work, to where it is now, which is, in hindsight, a really simple solution, but I'll show you in a second as we move our way back. A lot of work has been done in the boot. One of them was fitting the boot box itself, then drilling 28 holes with the rivet nuts to get the boot box secure, because obviously it's going to have 120 liters of fuel, which is roughly about 120 kilograms, which will then be bumping up and down as we drive around. So there's a lot of stress probably on the boot box, and we don't want it to go up and down and then create that stress and metal fatigue and everything else that comes with it. So I drilled 28 holes to fix it. Now what I'm using, as I've just promised you to show you, is I am using these rivet nuts. So I've got different sizes. This one is it Focus? Yeah, M6. I've got M5 and M4 as well. They're all here. And like I said, they've got a thread in them to screw in bolts and then as you've got the tool to then pull these together so they crimp and then form a nice little collar. At the front, fire extinguisher is fitted, and I had a new bracket made for it as well, so that's all in place, and then the plumbing has been done. On the other side will be the battery. I'm waiting on the battery tray to be delivered. It is due sometime in December. There's a bit of a back order, so hopefully that'll be in December. And then I'm going to redo the wiring because I'm not happy with it, and I've changed a few things regarding how things are fitted. The fuel tank, which has now been installed in the box, but obviously I still need to put the filling material in between. I'm going to use very simple 10mm rubber matting from gym floors. That was recommended by the guys that build it. They say it's absolutely fantastic for it, and it fits. It is designed for it to fit right in between and underneath the fuel tank itself. So there's a 10mm gap all the way around and underneath. On top of it, you can see the new fuel pumps, twin fuel pumps, obviously, because if one breaks I have a spare. Everything is about redundancy, as I've mentioned a few times before, and you can see the fuel filter, which, as I said, took about 4 attempts to finally end up here. And I will actually do an episode because I need to do more fuel lines. I need to do a few more that run for the vent line, and I need to run one from the actual tank to the fuel pump itself. So I'm going to do a separate episode on that to show you how that works, how we make them. Like I said, over the last year and a half, a lot of it has been do, redo, do again, in that I do something, I'm not happy with it, try a second, a third time even, to finally end up with something that's really nice, which is why I haven't shown you anything, because I'd imagine it's utterly boring for you. So there we go. The next step in the boot is to design the floor. So over there is going to be the spare wheel. I'm going to put it in to measure up. Then there's a bracket going across the top, which is also mounted underside the tank to stabilize and strengthen everything. Tire will be on top, and then there will be a floor, which for strength purposes is probably going to be made out of carbon fiber honeycomb structure, potentially even a Kevlar reinforced. At the top I still need to do an additional rear light in case we're standing behind the car, and I'm going to install 2 extra lights to light up the boot area to work in at night. So there you have it, a quick, somewhat lengthy update on what I've been doing over the last year and a half. It doesn't seem like much, probably isn't a lot, especially if you think about it, that the things I've done about 4 or 5 times. Most of it is going into figuring out where it goes and where what, which is, like I said before, it's boring for you. It doesn't really add much to the series, so therefore I've decided to not show you and just do a recap now. However, we've now reached a stage where I can actually show you things. So the next episode will be how to make fuel lines. Then I'll do one on installing the rear subframe, or part of it, because I haven't done the drive shafts yet. I just realized that I need to send them off for clean, sandblasting or cleaning, e-coat, powder coat, before I can then reassemble. I've got all the parts for it, but I need to reassemble and then I can bolt them in. The idea is that the rear subframe is going to be fitted so that we can then put the diff on as well, and then we can measure up how long of a prop shaft we need and what needs modifying to it, so that we can install that so the gearbox can drive everything. And then hopefully the car will be ready in February to then go back to the car, to the workshop at Competition Classics, where they'll do the final body work, they'll get it ready for paint, we'll get it painted, have it back here, and then summer next year we will finally start assembling the car, get it ready for the upholsterer to do the seats and everything else. And who knows, maybe by the end of next year we might have a car that is ready to go onto the road. You know, it might be a bit longer, but that's the aim. But as my daughter says, all it needs is the doors, the windows, the wheels and the seats, and we should be good to go. Might be a bit simplistic, but I think she's pretty right there. As I mentioned at the start, I've been busy working on a new magazine called CS Coupe for the BMW E9. Again, I've linked it below. If you're an E9 owner or an E9 enthusiast, have a look. It's an absolutely fantastic magazine, well worth the read. And with a bit of luck, I'll have the next one ready in January next year. If you'd like to share your story, which I'd love to hear more about, then hit me up and we'll get cracking. Thank you very much, and I'll see you the next time. Bye bye.